This is my 2009 Subaru Forester that I paid $300 for, and I've dumped a ton of time and money into this thing. I've resealed the engine and put new timing components on it, fixed worn out suspension parts, flushed the transmission, and even tried some straight up snake oil. Yeah, Cataclean. And somehow this thing is still alive. So today we're going to be doing a follow-up video on everything that I've done to the Subaru so far, how it's been driving, and if it was even worth fixing it, and the time that I spent trying to get this thing to stay alive for a little longer. And as you can see, we are a tick over 182,000 miles on it, which means this thing is probably due for an oil change. But before we do that, let's take it for a quick spin and show you how it's been driving and shifting. All right, and we are off, ladies and gentlemen. So first things first, this thing does drive perfectly and shifts smooth, no engine issues, no transmission issues. I did have that shuddering when I first got this thing and flushed the transmission, and it's been great since that. As you can see, we have no check engine lights. The only thing I have on is that TPMS light. That's the thing I haven't addressed yet, but everything else has been great. I even ran that snake oil Cataclean stuff through it. A lot of people had some rants and raves on that Cataclean video. Some people believed in it, some people didn't. Some people thought maybe I did it incorrectly, but so far, right or wrong, it's been working great. No check engine light, no converter codes, and it's been like 3 to maybe 4,000 miles since I've tried that product, so it's been working pretty dang good. Now I'm about to head off onto the highway here, and I'll show you how the transmission's been shifting. And again, all that stuff's been really good here too, so here we go. Now I will say, from a review standpoint, I've been driving this car now for a little over 3 months, just basically nonstop. This is the only car I've been driving out of my fleet of cars because I wanted to see what it would do here with this transmission service, all the work I've done to the engine, yada yada, you name it. And I will say that my biggest pet peeves of this thing is the comfort. These seats are horrible. I don't like them at all. And the fuel economy. This thing really sucks on gas. But I will say I'm in a temperamental environment where I live, so we have a lot of snowfall and things of that nature. And the all-wheel drive system on this thing is killer. It's just got regular plain Jane tires, but you just don't get stuck in this thing. It's a pretty good car for this kind of environment. And some of you mentioned in the transmission flush video that you wanted to see what the pan looked like after we did some miles on this thing. So I think this time too, it's due for an oil change. I'm gonna pull the pan off the transmission too, and we'll just see. Maybe there's debris in there. We'll look at that filter once more, just to look. Why not? I mean, it's the experiment, right? So I'm gonna head back to the shop and we'll do a complete inspection up on the hoist. We'll get everything out. We'll just kind of go over the overall condition of everything so far, and then I'll give you an entire parts breakdown, what I actually spent on this $300 car. But first, let's do one little 0 to 60 pull to make sure this thing really is shifting how it's supposed to. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Second gear. And 60. So we can still do that. All right, back to the shop. So everything's looking good on the top side. All the fluids are full, power steering fluid, brake fluid. The coolant situation is full. And I'd open up the radiator, but we still got pressure on this thing from driving. It's still pretty hot. And I'm still running the same radiator that came with the car. It was a little bit tweaked up and I didn't replace it yet. However, I should, but it hasn't been leaking, so I've kind of just been running it. Take a quick peek at the oil condition here. See, it's a little dirty on the fluid there. However, we are still looking good for the oil level, which is a good sign. All right, we'll do a little dab of the transmission fluid too, see what that looks like. And it could be a little brighter, but I did only flush it that one time. But we're gonna pull all the fluid out and put some more newer fluid in this thing as well. Now let's get a peek on the underside and see how those gaskets are holding up and those suspension parts. And then we'll go ahead and get draining that engine oil and the transmission oil, and we'll kind of do a further inspection. All right, so first up, everything is looking really dry underneath, so those gaskets are looking good. Nothing's coming out of those head gaskets. The real concern will be the valve cover gaskets. And all that stuff looks fine. I don't see any drips or anything hanging off the valve covers. I just had some issues I fought with those bolts. So that's all looking good. This cylinder head's looking good. Nothing coming from the oil pan or the rear main, so all the gaskets are looking good. I do notice this little cup seal thing in the back here on the cam. That right there, that little black thing, that might have a small seepage coming through it. It's hard to tell, but it looks like there might be some residual oil coming down from it. Let's check this other side. And this other side looks pretty dry. So maybe this side has a small seepage coming from that little seal. And I didn't replace those, so that could be an issue. Now I do see a drip hanging off this transmission cooler line. And it could just be something from the hose or possibly one of these clamps right here. They're just little spring clamps, and over time they lose tension. So that could just be a simple fix there. We could just put a new hose on it. But that's really the only thing I see. And then everything transmission-wise looks all nice and sealed up. Let's check those ball joints we replaced. Are those nice and tight on that? Nice and tight on this one. Now I will say I'm a little disappointed in those cheap axles I bought. I mean, granted, they were the cheapest ones, but look at how these things held up. It's only been roughly 3-ish months, right? And there's a lot of rust built up on them already. So this is the driver's side, and look at all the rust on that axle shaft, and then right up here by the knuckle. Just a ton of rust built up already. So that's a bummer. Same thing on the passenger side. You can see all the rust built up right there. And then same thing on this axle shaft too, a lot of rust built up. Now I have been driving it in all the salt and the slush, so it's kind of to be expected, but I think they could have at least painted them or something to just prevent some of that rust and stuff building up. But you can see it's already attacking it, and it's been not that long. So kind of a bummer with that. All right, let's get this oil drained out of this thing. We'll catch it in a separate pan. Kind of get a little inspection of the oil, see what that looks like. Stuff comes out like a waterfall. All right, well, here is the engine oil. It's pretty dark. I'm not seeing any sparkly stuff, which is a good sign, but it is really dark and black. Granted, I do have about 4,000 or 5,000 miles on this stuff, so it's probably to be expected. But that engine was pretty dirty when we took it all apart, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's some stuff in there in the block that's trying to work its way out now, which is probably a good thing, hopefully. And I managed to get this filter all ripped apart, and it doesn't look terrible. It's just dirty. So no debris in there, which is a good sign. Trying to get this thing apart a little bit more. You can see here's the filter element. Some like carbon and sludge stuff built up there, no shiny bits. That's the part you always got to worry about. But yeah, overall this doesn't look terrible, just dirty. Some sludge stuff built up in there. There's some sludge right there. So this engine's probably getting nice and clean on the inside. Everything else is breaking free in there. So good thing we're changing it now. Okay, now let's get the transmission fluid drained. And then I'll get this pan off too. And we'll take a peek at that and see what the condition of all that stuff looks like. Oh man. That was a treat to get off. All right, and here's the pan and the filter. Everything's looking pretty good in here. There's a little bit of debris maybe on this magnet, as you can see, which is probably a good thing that it catches anything. But overall, everything is looking pretty good. I don't see any of those big shiny bits in this thing anymore. And then same thing in this filter screen. I don't see anything as I rub crap in it. Filter screen all looks pretty dang good, not like it was before. Let me grab a rag and wipe some of this stuff up, see if we got any grime on the bottom of the pan. Yeah, it looks just like fluid. That's from the magnet touching there. Do some over here. Yeah, just fluid, and it looks like it's just whatever's collecting right here. You can see that's the fluid on the bottom of the pan on my finger right now. So overall, everything looks really good. I don't see any big shavings or chunks or anything like that sitting on the bottom of the pan, which is probably a good thing here. It does look a little more dirty on this section of the pan right here when I suck it up with this rag, but I mean, we got a blue rag here, so I don't know how accurate that's gonna be, but overall, it's looking pretty good compared to the last time we took it apart. This whole bottom of the pan was full of material, this magnet was full, and then the screen on this thing was all plugged up. And the screen's looking really good here. I don't see any big metal debris or anything like that on it here. And as far as the bottom side of the valve body, all that stuff is looking normal too. I don't see any big debris or anything caked up on anything. It all looks really good. So I think there you have it. Slap this pan back on and put it back down. Now the engine oil change is completed and the transmission is now filled up again with some more new fluid. So just call it like a drain and fill if you will, because I removed the pan to see what was inside. But now let's do a cost breakdown of everything that I got invested into this Forester. So first up, let's break down the cost of the engine reseal that I did. I did a whole bunch of maintenance stuff with it as well. So I did the spark plugs, the wires, all the belts, the timing components. I had some oil sensors that I replaced, a solenoid I replaced, some air filters, and then the whole component reseal kit for the head gaskets. All that came to $557 after tax, title, license. Next up was the suspension. I put 2 axles on it and 2 lower ball joints. The axles were $85 a piece, so call it $170 for both of the axles. And the ball joints came in a pair, and that was actually $30. So the suspension wasn't that expensive. It was about $200 in parts. Now for the transmission, I did put a filter in it, and I ran about 12 quarts, maybe a little bit more of that in ATF, so about $100 in fluid-ish. And then that filter was $20, and then some miscellaneous RTVs and things like that. And I guess I could include engine oils and the other things that I've had to use for this too. And there was some disposables that I didn't really equate for, you know, gloves, rags, brake cleaner and stuff like that. But we could just throw in an additional $65, $70 in there for that. Which brings me to my grand total, which I rounded up just due to the fact that I had miscellaneous in there, $1,150. And that's not including the purchase price of $300. So you could say with purchasing and registration and all the repairs of parts, I'm into this thing for about $1,500. And that's also assuming that my time in all of this was completely worthless, which most of the time people think my time is worthless anyways. So it is what it is. Now my goal with this Subaru series was literally to try to do everything as cheap as possible with some tests along the way. You guys saw the Cataclean video and stuff like that. And that one was kind of bizarre because I've never used a product like that. And it's working. I don't know why it's working, but it is. But I did show a visual on the converter itself, and you could see it was starting to degrade on those corners. So how long it will last is beyond me. I have no clue. Now on the topic, was it worth it? Is it smart to buy a car that's a little bit worn out and fix a bunch of stuff on it to see if you can limp it out for a few more miles or a few more years? And is it a smart idea? And for me to answer that, it's a little bit difficult because it depends. Now, for the case of this Subaru, I showed a ton of content going through the engine, doing the timing components, doing the transmission service, showcasing everything. And to be fair, it is a lot of work, and you've got to have a little bit of a passion if you want to do something like this, because it's not for the faint of heart. Not a lot of people are probably going to want to tackle a project like this. So in that case, no, this would not be worth it, because if you brought this to a shop or something like that, it would bury you in just labor costs alone. But if you're somebody that likes to tinker and wants a gamble and a project, look no further and get a junker. But there you have it. The Subaru still runs, it still drives, everything's working pretty darn good on it, and no check engine lights or anything like that yet still. Now, I do have a couple things planned with it. I wasn't just gonna dump it and just push it along to the next guy. I do have some ideas, more fun stuff rather than kind of informative stuff. And well, I suppose I can tease it a little bit too, right? The Subaru is going to be getting a few upgrades, and then we can really do some durability testing on this thing to see if it really holds up. But there you have it. Stay tuned for some future videos on the Subaru and some other stuff I got in the works on the channel. I didn't want to make this one a very long one, but as always, thank you so much for watching. We will catch you in the next video. Adios.